But we couldn't find like any car in the parking lot.
Yeah, I know. Because the directions go to the building over there, and I think maybe they used to be the same address, so it's confused. I don't know.
Hi.
Yeah, it's a cool place. Flowers. She does some. Are you afraid of dogs? Our dog's sitting for a little while. Layla, come inside.
Nice face.
Thank you. I cleaned for you guys. And we have open studio tonight, so. My ideal customer, I think, would understand that I want the clothes to last over seasons, over the fast fashion. That it's something that they can integrate. I can't control that they use only 10 garments in their wardrobe consistently. People are going to buy other things, but my ideal customer would have the garment for 5 to 10 years, and it would still wear well, and it's still going to be contemporary with other things that they're wearing, classic designs. I also am interested that people can take care of it and wash it, infrequently as possible. It also is going to extend the life of the garment. The materials that I use are cotton, linen, blends of those two, wools in the cooler weather, and then some rayon. I do local markets, they're technically craft markets, but they're pretty high end, I would say. A lot of people making beautiful things around here. Markets and then online sales. I'm not the best at social media, but I do post pictures, and people contact me through there as well. So direct to consumer, and also I have clothing in some stores in town, but that's consignment based. So if it were wholesale, if it were more wholesale, it would help with cash flow, but it's not. It's me. I don't know if you would want me to include the sewers, but they're subcontracted, so they're not actual employees. But there's probably about 4 to 5 of those at any given time. Sometimes just 2, but. I wanted to do more volunteer type work, humanitarian causes, and this was a way for me to be able to do that quickly. I don't think so. I think some of them do. And those are the people that come into my booth. They don't bark at the prices. They appreciate the materials that I choose, and they purchase something. It's not the person who is sitting there trying to decide whether it's worth it for them or not. And so I think it's a smaller margin of people who are those ideal customers for me. And that's when I really feel good about a sale, because they understand what it is that I'm doing. And they're also people who have traveled, and they're not just based in Denver. They've been around the world, or at least to a couple of other different countries where they would see where I'm coming from. I mean, my interaction with the customer is only maybe 5 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes, if we're getting into a discussion about the sewing program or what my background is and all of those things. And that's really when, the happiness comes out and you get to share these things, but it's not all the time.
I know, yeah. Find or they seek?
I think they really like the fabric choices. Second, when the conversations opened up to talking about the humanitarian work, people here in Denver are really invested in that sort of work, so that's probably secondary. But the fabric and the style, I think they're kind of competing for number one. That it's something different looking than what else people are selling around here.
It comes from the kind of differences comes from your philosophy on to your design with kind of sustainable aspect of use the cotton or natural fiber or some the longevity of your design, or it's a different kind of aesthetical like some.
I think
benefit for your customers?
aesthetically, it's a little bit different. It's got a little bit of an Asian influence, the style of the clothing, but still mixed with American. The lines, they're very simple lines, but still a little bit sculptural in some of the pieces. Okay, so if I design a t-shirt for one season, then I can always use that as a base pattern to make a different t-shirt. You can either elongate it, cut it in the middle and open it up and make it a baggier t-shirt, or for example, a dress that I have that's a fit and flare. I've used the bottom part of it as just a skirt pattern. So instead of redesigning a whole new thing, I'm in that way recycling the patterns to reshape it and change it into something else. For me, it's easy to take care of. I don't use a lot of knits. I like things to be fitted but still loose and give shape in a different way. I think that rayon is good for some things, or like knit material that's stretchy. It clings to the body, and I make clothing for ladies that are a little bit more curvy, so not everybody wants to show those curves. So having something a little bit more structured gives shape, but also hides some things, and the maintenance of it. I feel like that's one of the big struggles, because when I talk to people, I think they're also asking, why don't more people know this? And how do you get your story out in your elevator speech in 2 minutes or less in a booth when you're selling something, right? Yes, I would love to share the story more. How to do it? Somebody to run my social media campaign. Someone to possibly make some informative videos, add to the website, or I don't know, do more educational events, like doing this kind of thing and interviews to share things with people. I did a lecture a couple months ago at a high school to talk about sustainable fashion also. So any other way that I can educate the consumer about how the business is actually run. Because I think that also people don't understand price points. When you're manufacturing something here in the US, and we're talking about minimum wages about $10 now, and it's not cheap to produce something, you know? It costs anywhere from $400 to $800 in product development, which is why I started doing my own patterns, because I took a big hit paying somebody else that. And so I started to learn for myself how to do it and become more efficient at doing it and understanding the concept and the design that I want. I don't know. I mean, there are so many ways, but I would love to educate people more about it. I think that if people understood what it looked like to go from design to manufacturing to the store and all the costs that were incorporated into those things, that they would think twice or even 3 times about what they're buying day to day. But I don't know how you, I've seen some websites that, you know, have full disclosure about what the fabric costs, what the labor is costing, what the labels are costing, or any kind of snaps or closures, and all of those things sort of broken down, and then what is our margin of profit, and, you know, but there's still other things that run behind that, like how much does it cost to have an office, and to pay your personnel, and, you know, all of those other things that nobody knows about, and it's complex. I think that getting the word out there, right? Like advertising. How do you know what kind of advertising is going to work? You can't compete with big companies because they have different kinds of budgets, right? So advertising. Also, I didn't go to school for fashion design. It's not my background. So there's probably a lot that I'm missing that I don't know about how to approach things business-wise in the fashion industry. And then there's like, everybody needs a mentor. I've done my fair share of taking classes at the SBDC, taking the business proposal, business plan writing course, that's what it was. And then they also have professionals that will talk to you about bookkeeping, about advertising and marketing and stuff like that. But you know, you have to try out a lot of different things before you start to really see it. So recording all of that data, being one person, that's a lot to do. And then reading it, and then trying something new and doing the same thing until you get there, right? Price point. I've started to play with my price points and bringing it down to where it's somewhere between like a wholesale price and what the retail price should be for time invested and all the materials into the garment. Somewhere between there's a breaking point where if you bring the price down enough that you're going to sell more quantity, right? So that also takes experimentation. And sometimes at the end of the day, you're just so exhausted with all the possibilities that you could create. And if you had somebody or a couple of people to sort of help game plan, and you know, everybody tackles a certain amount of stuff, then of course that alleviates it. My biggest challenge is finding the perfect price point where I'm going to sell more to be able to keep it going. Well, price point, right? That's a huge thing. Like, do you want, like, I try to be fair, honestly, with my price, but I just did a show in Chicago, and I gotta say, the cheapest garments were like $300, $150 for a very simple shirt, but everything was like $300 to $400. So there's also something to be said for saying, okay, this is an artisan thing, this is small batch production, which is where the price can be high also, because even if your production price and your materials and your product development costs a certain amount, those things are going to sort of flesh out the more that you make. So there's a certain production price for, say, 50 and under, and then another, 50 to 100 pieces or 150 pieces. You have a different price point for production. So my recommendation would be to, which is what I think I might be moving towards, is to create your styles and take orders. Do made to order. Because as a small business, all my cash flow is caught up in having product. So, but I don't know if we can train the consumer to be okay with that, because people want to buy things and take it home. They want to try it on and be able to walk away with it. But it doesn't benefit small businesses to keep a lot of inventory, in my opinion.